Welcome back to Pursuing the Muse. Today we sit down with Texas singer-songwriter Thomas Csorba, spelled C-S-O-R-B-A for those of you Googling at home. Based in Dallas, Csorba is a modern master of Americana who documents the emotional realities of domestic life and fatherhood on his brand new record, Tender Country. Stay tuned as we discuss why his new album is already in my top 4 records of the year list, his fascinating mirror versus window theory of artistry, and how getting a day job helped him finally redefine what it means to really hit the big time. Don't go anywhere.
By the time I'm back in Texas, the boys will all be gone. By the time I hit the big time, the time will all be gone. When you shine that silver buckle and you polish up those spurs, may you always thank the stars for what you have. May your heart be even bigger than your hat. Pulling out the cutting board and slicing up the line, keeping count of every ounce and trying to get it right. A little splash of Cointreau and some middle shelf tequila. It's best to keep it simple with a homemade margarita.
Tom Compton here again on Pursuing the Muse. I am psyched today. We have Thomas Csorba joining us, a Texas singer-songwriter, and I'm just going to come right out of the gate, Thomas, and let you know that Tender Country is in my my final 4 for best records of the year, and that list is up to 75 right now. That I'm one of those
amazing
geeks who keep track of favorite records of the year, and you are right there at the top, man. I'm loving Tender Country. So.
Well, thank you. It's worth noting that this is being recorded, late July. So there's still some new folks that may squeeze into the top 5 there by the end of the year. But
we shall see. We shall see.
I appreciate you putting me in the running.
Thomas, let me know where the record title Tender Country come from.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend about it yesterday on tour. When I came up with the title, I kind of thought it was a little silly, and I wasn't totally sure about it. But I think that there's a big part of this record is about kind of a true to myself kind of honesty about my stage of life, and that stage of life includes raising kids and trying to be a good dad and a good husband, and there's a level of tenderness that is required of me, and so I think that was part of it. My wife and I have been talking about that a lot. But then another part of it is I listen to some of my favorite recordings from the 60s and 70s in this kind of country adjacent and Americana vein. And, you listen to some of those Chris Christopherson songs and Merle Haggard songs, and there seems to be a spirit of tenderness throughout a lot of these deep cuts that maybe seems antithetical to the way that we as a culture are kind of digesting and rewarding musicians these days. It seems like shock factor wins, and what's the most exciting thing? And to make a record called Tender Country, I think pushes against that and says, no, I'm going to do something that feels really kind of even keeled and put it on a platter for the listener there to see. So that's a bit about how the record title kind of came together.
Absolutely. I gotta say, the record is very relatable. I have 4 kids, and I think sometimes having a record like yours that comes out and makes you do kind of a double take and appreciate, being out on the patio, hanging out with my wife and, all that. It's like a breath of fresh air, what Tender Country is doing.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of that kind of feedback on the record, and I think it's because there are two things a musician can be for people. I had a great friend tell us this who works in advertising for brands, and brands like Home Depot and Academy, those kind of brands. And she talks about how musicians can either be a window or a mirror for people. Is that you have these really like, Charlie Crockett might be a window. It's like people go see that show because they think, oh, I get to be a cowboy at this show. I get to step into that role and watch him do this thing. And then there are people like Taylor Swift who are writing songs to an audience that are like, oh, that's me. I've felt that before. She's putting words to my seasonal life and my feelings. And so I found that I relate to the latter, and I think about sustainability as an artist, and I think it's refreshing for people maybe sometimes, like you're saying, to listen to music that feels like it reflects a little bit about what they're going through. You feel seen in a way,
Right.
I certainly do as a listener,
Absolutely. Something resonates, and it's like there's like a community that just unfolds. So it's very cool.
Yeah.
Did with Tender Country, the opening track is the big time. Is that kind of setting a tone for what's going to unfold? Kind of like a contrast that happens when you take in the track.
Yeah, I think there's like a, and I've talked about this song a little bit. I just think if I'm going to make a record about family and home life and stability and seeking these things, it's worth addressing the question of how is that reconciled with what my work requires of me, which is being on the road and being away from home and, having kids and starting a family and I think seeking to do those things well has certainly made me redefine this idea of success, right? And all of these things that the world and the industry tells me are valuable, you can't take at that face value anymore. Or at least you can't take somebody's word for it, right? Just because somebody says it's a good idea doesn't mean it is. And so that's been the big question and the big shift in my life is, every time I'm offered a tour or a show, that is a family question, while at 18 years old, I was saying yes to everything. Now I'm in a place where my wife and I are like, hey, what do we want as a family, right? And so that song kind of pokes at that question, right? Is what does the big time mean? It certainly means something different today than it did when I was, 17, 18 years old.
Can you pinpoint a moment, or maybe even a series of moments, when you went from the 18-year-old reaching for the stars and kind of became more introspective and reevaluated what family and marriage meant for you?
That's a great question. About a year and a half ago, I got a day job for the first time. Oh. That was, a big one where it's like, just relieve some pressure, relieve the pressure valve on the crock pot,
Yeah.
And just say, hey, I'm not too cool for school, I can go and, get on a computer and send some emails and do good work in a way that like my family knows that everything's going to be okay. Right. And that I don't have to be playing 200 shows a year. And so I certainly actions speak louder than words. And that was one that, I'm not going to sit idly on my hands. And at this stage of my career, when it feels like me versus the world, just trying to claw your way to get people's attention, which is just such a exhausting battle.
Sure.
My wife and I just realized, maybe putting my attention elsewhere for a little bit, for some hours of the week might be a helpful endeavor. And it certainly has been. So there have been some moments like that, certainly that have shifted. But I see it too in my songwriting, the stuff I put out when I was 18 years old. I listen back to it now and I love those records. But there's certainly a level of striving, of trying to prove myself And then you listen to this record that's just kind of like, here's some really introspective oil paintings of what life looks like right now, and so it's certainly a different kind of spirit I have towards songwriting and what I want to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's not just paint drying, man. You got some fun stuff going on. I love like homemade margaritas. You got the clavinet going.
Yeah, that clav is crazy, huh?
I love it. Were you like evoking Stevie Wonder, or what inspired the clavinet?
That was us in the studio. My buddy Robert Ellis was playing keys and some guitars on the record, and he was like, "You know what this needs? Clav." That's all that it was. I've got a great video of him with headphones on, trying to play clav as quickly as he could to keep up with the tune. And the mix turned out, it's way more present in the mix than I initially anticipated, and I love it. Ended up really cool.
It's fantastic. And I saw, like years ago, I saw NRBQ, and Terry Adams Tech spent like an hour setting up the clavinet for Terry, that I just like, oh my, it looks like a delicate beast, but once you get that thing rolling, it's worth the effort.
Totally. Yeah, it's a fun, weird new texture that I hadn't quite used before,
Absolutely. And then, and there's a lot of, fun, like bigger wheels is a blast, and it's a fun take on like watching your kids grow up. And I relate to it, but I'm like a little further down the road, so I'm looking back because like my youngest just got her driver's license, so
crazy.
We're out of the big wheels, but I can appreciate the fun of watching the kids grow up like that.
Totally. Well, it's cool to just like, you have all these milestones and things that kind of mark their coming of age, and it's a fun song. It's a fun way to just pick at that kind of universal truth,
Right. Tell me about your label, Turtlebox. This is I saw that this is a debut release for them.
Yeah, Turtlebox Audio is, if you're not familiar, they're one of the best speaker companies around, and they essentially make I don't know if I can say this publicly, probably kind of the Yeti of speakers, right? Like how Yeti did with the cooler. They were like, man, we need an outdoor speaker that's loud, waterproof, indestructible. And so they built it and did it great. And I've known these guys since I was a high school kid. Actually, even younger than that. One of the founders' moms was my third grade teacher in Houston. Anyway, I go way back with these guys and watched them kind of build this company from scratch. And they've always had an interest in supporting artists and coming alongside of artists they believe in. And I kind of presented them with this idea a few years ago. Hey, y'all are in a prime position to start a little artist-friendly label, and kind of add me to your ambassador profile, right? To be out there spreading the word about what Turtlebox is, but also, help each other in, I think Turtlebox has from a marketing perspective, might have a blind spot in how to market towards music fans, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Most of their stuff is naturally marketed towards outdoorsmen and women. And, so I think I can help with that and kind of bringing them into this world, and then vice versa. Obviously, if people are using their speakers, I want them listening to Thomas Csorba. So it's interesting from a business perspective because they're kind of the end of the distribution chain of music, if that makes sense. I'm the beginning of it and they're the end of it. Where that's where a lot of people are listening, actually daily listening to music in their backyard or on their boat or at the ranch or, in the kitchen. And so it seems like it's been a cool thing and a very sweet thing. They're great guys to be working with, and it's been a labor of love, but I'm excited for them to see who else they bring on to the label and see where it goes from here.
Right on. Yeah, I love that vision of like you're all a part of the chain,
Yeah.
They got the speakers and then you're the music coming out of the speakers.
Yeah, exactly. It makes too much sense, right?
It's perfect. Hey, and I got to mention you're on record now, as I was number 4 of best records of the year, you are on the record as the Yeti of Speakers.
It's great.
There's no taking that back now.
Yeah.
So, when you're with your songwriting, what instruments are you writing on? Are you primarily guitar?
Yeah, primarily guitar. I'm very bad at other instruments, and that's something I want to change here in the near future. But yeah, mostly guitar, and I did a lot of co-writing for this record, which was really fun, and with a dear friend of mine, a guy named Brian Douglas Phillips, and a couple other writers, but Brian and I who wrote of the co-writes. We primarily wrote together, and he and I have similar sensibilities when it comes to language and images, and all of that obviously comes from our love of, Emily Dickinson and Flannery O'Connor and people of the like. And so it's very fun to be writing with him, and those writes look like both of us with the guitar in hand and trying to solve the puzzle a little bit of what does the song want us to say? Usually starting with the title or an idea and kind of unpacking it from there.
Are you bringing ideas into the session, or are you just showing up, seeing what the ether will produce?
No, I'm always bringing ideas. I've always got a long list on my phone of, stuff I think is silly or really sweet. That song "Bigger Than Your Hat." I remember that was my idea. I was like, man, I think this is like a really sweet kind of "May Your Heart Be Even Bigger Than Your Hat" is like such an image of a kid that's like, kind of a cowboy's blessing, and Brian was able to remind me of the great Harry Nilsson song "Little Cowboy." That's very wonky and weird and very Nilsson, and we're like, okay, cool. I think we know what we want to do. Let's use this title to kind of rework this idea that maybe Nilsson was poking at. Sure. And do it in kind of an accessible kind of, Willie Nelson kind of style. That makes sense.
Right. And down in Texas, the hats get pretty big, so.
Well, especially when you're, 40 inches tall.
Yeah. And it also brought to mind, do you remember when, who on Saturday Night Live, the guy who played Burt Reynolds wore the big foam cowboy hat for the fake Jeopardy round stuff?
Yeah. I should include that in the bootleg music video.
There you go.
Yeah.
That would be a lot of pressure, man. A lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So, and when you're coming up with ideas, do you is it mainly titles, or are you getting like lyrics and melodies, little snippets here and there?
Yeah, but sometimes it's pretty fleshed out. I've come to co-writes with a verse and a chorus written, and I need help because like I don't know where this goes from here, right? But I really like kind of the ground up with a co-writer being able to kind of be like, hey, here's kind of the vision here. Let's put every brick in the wall together.
Give them give some room to contribute.
Yeah, and sometimes you're the scribe. Somebody's on a roll and gets excited, and sometimes you're steering the ship, and sometimes you need to go on a walk and take some space from it if it's just not working. So
gotcha.
Everyone's a little bit different.
Do you have a preference versus writing yourself or co-writing?
I started co-writing during COVID just because I wasn't hanging out with anybody, and it was a great way to hang out with friends, and it's really fun. The other thing is that it's scheduled, so it tends to happen.
Right.
Whenever I tell myself, all right, I'm going to wake up tomorrow before the kids get up and try to do X, Y, and Z. It's easy to bail on an appointment with yourself.
Yeah.
So that kind of accountability is a sweet part of it. So there are pros and cons to both for sure.
Sure. It makes a difference having that discipline.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether you like it or not, Thomas, you're coming up with something today.
Yeah, exactly. And don't show up looking like an idiot without any ideas, you know? So,
Sure. Now, your song Tony Rice and Beans, that's got some nice shout outs to heroes.
yeah.
Who are some of the influences you've had, and are those the ones in the song? Like you call out the Carter family, you call out Tony Rice, you call out
Scruggs and
Scruggs.
If We Make It Through December is obviously the Haggard
The Haggard
reference.
tune,
Yeah, I mean, all that stuff. I mean, when I grew up, my mom was singing Willie Nelson songs to me to sleep at night. And so that's all kind of in the water, just being a Texas kid. And, you know, when I was 14, 15 years old, I became obsessed with Towns and Guy Clark and Chris Christopherson and Blaze Foley and like all those guys. And I just thought being a songwriter was the coolest thing ever. So certainly it's been sort of that, you know, straight country, you know, from the days of yore, but like the Merle and Johnny and June and Carter family and stuff. But it's also a lot of that Texas songwriter stuff. The Tony Rice and Beans song kind of came because I hadn't quite done the deep dive on his music before and until he passed. And I knew who he was and I knew Church Street Blues, but I hadn't really done the thing. And so when he passed, I did the deep dive and learned so much and learned how much I don't know, right? And how special he was as a player and as a singer.
Yeah.
And so I brought that song idea to my guitar player, Matt, who's well versed in country music history. And it was a fun one to write for sure. Felt like hanging out. There wasn't much banging your head against a wall and writing a song that simple, you know?
Yeah. Do you ever have a sense like, or wonder, like, am I getting too clever with puns versus keeping it authentic? Because I will say Tony Rice and Beans, I love the song. It's great. And it's also clever. Is there a point where it's like, it's almost getting too clever and it's losing its heart when you're writing various songs?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it depends on the context. If I was getting too clever or I had too many jokes on a song like She Would Have Loved This, which is just like straightforward, like, you know, tell it like it is. Somebody else has felt this before and you very well might make somebody cry, you know. You got to be careful in those kind of songs not to be distracting, I think. But then in a song like Tony Rice and Beans, that's just like a ridiculous title. I mean, it's stupid. The only thing that gets it out of the territory of being stupid is that the song is finished. You know, it's stupid if it's just an idea, but if you make the song and put it out and commit to the bit, so to speak, then you can get away with it. But you look at people like John Prine who are telling. I mean, he's got a smirk on his face singing Sam Stone. You know?
Yeah.
You look at somebody like Terry Allen, who, a song of his called The Death of the Last Stripper, that's so heartbreaking, but it's almost like he's being sarcastic in a way. Like, there's some of that complexity that these really, really great songwriters have, that they can get away with in earnest conversations, being able to kind of somehow make you smile in a devastating song and be like, man, this is such good writing. You know?
Absolutely. I not too long ago, I was talking to Ed Jurdy and Gordy Quist of the Band of Heathens, and they were talking about working with Hayes Carll and how meticulous he is with drafts of lyrics. And I think a song that's, you know, with puns and getting clever, do you, as your own writer, how many drafts will you do or will you get to the point where you just kind of let it go?
I usually get, I mean, it takes, I usually get something down, like a full pass of the song. I can't remember who said it, but it's a great quote. Maybe it applies more to prose, but this idea that the first draft is the easiest thing to write because all that it has to do is exist. is like just get over that hump and get something on the page.
Yeah.
You know? And then you can go back and edit it and tweak and say, oh, there's an opportunity for a joke there, or there's an opportunity for something really special there, yada, yada, yada. And then I'll kind of tweak with it. You know, sometimes that means playing it live or just playing it around the house. And sometimes I'll remember a song in a way different than the way I originally wrote it, you know? And I think that's a little bit telling of like, where does my instinct want to go after having stared at the page? And usually I'll get songs in a really good place. I'll go into the studio, we'll track the stuff live, with the band down on the floor, and then I'll be up in the elevated control room, and so my guitar and my vocal can be a scratch, so I can go back and overdub my vocal. And so once I hear the band on it, I'm able to make small tweaks about, you know, small things like tense, or that should be a but instead of an and, or that kind of thing. And so I'm kind of always editing really up until the end, which is maybe different than the way somebody like Hayes does it or thinks about it, you know? But that seems to have worked for me, mostly because I think that the more I'm moving forward in the process, the better it is for me, you know? I don't do well with like a quote unquote finished song sitting in a file somewhere, you know?
Like, is it too tempting? You want to go back, or?
No, I just feel like I'll forget about it, or it's done or something, you know, like,
Sure.
I like it when the studio can lend itself to discovery. And I keep everything, you know, kind of with my hand open. Even once it's recorded in the studio, it's like, this is the most final version, but it is not the final version of a song, right? Like, I'm going to play this differently live. Maybe I'll record it live one day. I'll play it acoustic. Maybe I'll play it as a bluegrass trio one time. Maybe if I can afford my, you know, steel player, maybe I'll do a duo tour. You know, I think these songs are more malleable. And while the recorded version seems final, I think it's just part of the process. A big part of the process, but it's kind of just a tick or a dot in the line of the life of a song, you know?
That's a very cool perspective. That, you know, the record is almost a snapshot, but the song can live on after the fact.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because it certainly does. I mean, you look at the Grateful Dead's live versions, it's like, the reason why those are so fun to listen to is because these songs are living and breathing and different every night.
Yeah.
You know?
Freebird, man, say no more. You can add another 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so you have a cover on the record, Little Green Apples.
Yeah.
What brought about the mindset to include that?
I just love that song. I first heard the Tony Joe White version of that song, which I absolutely love that recording. And then I heard the Roger Miller version of that song, thinking Roger wrote it. And I heard some others. There's a Bobby Gentry version, and there's a bunch, right? And eventually I found out this song was written by a guy, I believe his name's O.C. Smith, way back in the day, kind of in a soul, kind of R&B kind of context. And it kind of felt like a reminder of the thing I love most about music. Part of that like lineage and the fact that songs are never finished is this tradition of playing each other's music and songs being a shared and community experience, not just for the listener, but for the artists to adapt and interpret. You know, if there's any, there are quite a few songs that I love that fit this bill of tender country, and that's certainly one of them. So I felt like it fit the record so well thematically, and then also I wanted a song that felt like that, where it feels like I'm not holding a guitar, right? And half asleep in a way when I'm singing it, kind of like the Tony Joe White version. So yeah, I think it helped round out the record a little bit. And I had other songs I could have put on the record instead of it, but it felt like it fit better than some of the stuff I was contributing, when it came to cutting some tracks and doing the track listing.
Yeah, it is a really great fit because the attitude of gratitude that it has is perfect.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it sure is.
It's also a little more spiritual than some of what is going on the record, and I think that's cool.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's a really, really special tune. I do a Valentine's Day show in Dallas every year at the Kessler Theater, and it's always a full room, and I do a big old Opry style band. And first time I played that song live was a few years ago as a part of that show, kind of a review style show. And I was just blown away by how fun it is to sing, and so I was like, man, I think I need to work this into the set and keep doing this, and let's kind of memorialize it on the record,
Yeah, love it. Now, as you've evolved as a songwriter with a family, can you think of specific ways being a father and husband has impacted you that wouldn't have done so, 10 years ago, that sort of thing?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there is a level of humility that is required of you to be a father. I think when I was me versus the world at 18 years old and I had a chip on my shoulder, I lacked a lot of that humility. And then I met my wonderful wife, and you have to die to yourself, right, to treat somebody else well. And then so that was certainly a big learning experience and sanctification of my spirit. And then having kids, you and your partner kind of die to each other, or die to yourself together in a way. That's like, hey, we're on the same page here. This baby's screaming. We're on the same team. There's a level of trust that you need to have that you sometimes have to remind each other of, right? And that requires some humility. Because when you got a 4-year-old, begging for a sandwich or whatever, you've got to very calmly and tenderly and humbly, respond in a way that teaches him how to ask the right way, but also supports him and not crushes his spirit, right? That encourages him to speak up and speak up with the things that he wants. And so, parenthood has changed for me in so many ways. But those are certainly the big ones, that kind of humility that is required of you to run and lead a household. I've certainly felt that in a big way this past few years.
Yeah.
Or the need for it, right? I guess not that I've had it figured out, but the times that I don't embody it properly, shit seems to hit the fan,
Sure. Absolutely. Do you use your family as a sounding board for your songs at all? Do you get their take on things before you put it down officially?
No. I mean, I guess so. I'll write songs and play them at shows, and my wife will be like, I don't really like that one, or that one's not my favorite. So it's not that I'm actively all right, honey, here's my track listing. What do you think? It's just part of our language and our conversation, and talk about humility in order to be honest with each other. That's kind of what we're looking for. And so that kind of honesty leads you to not thinking you're the coolest thing in the world. And I'll tell you, I'll be sitting there playing songs or telling my kids daddy's going to work, and they don't know that I'm going to play music for people, and quite frankly, they don't care if they did know, it's just not that cool to them. So it's just kind of part of our lives and our ecosystem. And I think when our kids are older, they'll realize it, oh, that was kind of unique. My wife's an oil painter, and so there's a a big emphasis on the arts in our house, and it's not contrived. It's just part of who we are. It's like, hey, mom needs an hour because she's got to go finish this painting for a commission for a deadline, you know?
Cool.
Or, hey, dad's got a call on a podcast because somebody wants to talk to him about his music, or, you know, whatever. And so they don't get it now, but certainly they'll grow up and maybe realize it was unique to some of their friends' childhoods.
Yeah. How old are your kids?
My oldest is 4, just turned 4, and then we've got another boy, so 2 boys, 4-year-old, a 1.5-year-old, and then we've got a girl coming in October.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Congrats.
We're in the, thank you. We're in the thick of it. We're having a great time.
Yeah, when you go from 2 to 3, that's when they outnumber you, Thomas.
I know.
But I have 4.
It'll be crazy.
I have 4. I will say going from 2 to 3 was harder than going from 3 to 4 because
that's what I hear.
At some point the oldest one starts to actually help out.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
exactly.
Believe it or not.
It'll be fun. We've got a bunch of friends with different numbers of kids, all different ages, and we're just grateful. You know, it's a fun season for sure.
Yeah. It's a good attitude to have.
Yeah.
So you are going on the road now, correct?
Yeah, I'm in Philly right now. I'm about to go load in to a show here tonight, and I'll be on the road through the end of this week, and then I'll do another run kind of from Memphis with those Band of Heathens guys, and then some headline dates in Texas in September, and then that'll kind of round out my year. I'll go into hibernation mode and
you got a kid on the way.
Mom, and yeah, exactly. So I'm sneaking a few things in before the kid comes.
Nice. And you're on the road as a full band?
I'm solo acoustic on this run. And riding in the van. I'm playing these shows with a guy named David Ramirez, who's an old friend from Texas. And
okay.
It's just me, him, and a tour manager, and Lean and me, and it's fun. Really fun.
Do you guys share the stage at all?
No, maybe we will by the end of the tour. We hadn't really talked about it, but we've done that stuff in the past. It's fun. It's fun to see an old friend, and get to be on the road for a good solid week.
Very cool. And I will say, Band of Heathens, their record Countryside's also in the top 4. So.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Good company.
If I could only have a teleportation device to get to Memphis to see half of my favorite albums of the year.
Yeah, totally.
Performed live.
Yeah.
I would.
It'll be fun. Those are some great guys.
Yeah. Have you started writing for another record yet?
A little bit, not specifically for another record. I've got a bunch of ideas for kind of what I want that record to be. And I've got some songs written and set aside. Some that kind of are in line with this tender country and the subject matter. A couple kind of Alzheimer's songs of watching some older folks in my life kind of deteriorate as they do tragically, and kind of reframing that. And so there's some songs in that kind of tender country world, and we'll see as I continue to write if that's a whole record, or if I go a completely other different direction.
Do you like to think in terms of albums, or are you like open to singles, EPs, all that craziness?
I like much more of an album guy. I like putting a concept together and putting solid 10 to 12 tracks together that I feel like all speak to each other and all part of the same motif, and that's the way I like listening to records, and so that's certainly the way that I like making them.
Sure. And Yeah, I am the same way, and I'm fascinated by the various approaches artists will take. Like they'll put together a whole album and then like spend 10 months releasing one single at a time. How much thought do you go into like release strategies like that?
I don't think about it too much. I kind of let my management dictate it. For the most part. I mean, there's certainly some tracks that I'm more eager to get out into the world and so on. But you know, the landscape is changing constantly, and what I know will always be in fashion, so to speak, are good songs. And so that's certainly what I'm focused on. And whether that means you know, a bunch of singles or a whole record at one time, I eventually, you know, I want to be putting out records and pressing it on vinyl. Because I think that's the way I'm wired to make those records. But based on, you know, the 6 months leading up to the record and how it's released, I'm not too concerned about it.
Okay. Now, I know with the baby on the way, it would probably be wishful thinking for me to think you might get up to Chicago anytime soon.
Maybe. I'm my sweet wife is letting me go on a golf trip with some buddies up there next week. But who knows? Maybe by the end of the year, something will pop up.
All right. I may hold you to that.
I love it.
All right. Well, Thomas, thank you so much for talking to me today. I really appreciate it. This Tender Country is fantastic. I urge everybody listening to pick up a copy. The songs are warm. You know, they evoke that 70s country scene and sound best crackling on vinyl. So get that physical copy. And then Thomas, where can people find out more about you if they want to dig deeper?
Yeah, anywhere which is difficult. Social media and anywhere you listen to or stream music. Call your local record store. They may have my record. But that's Thomas Csorba, Csorba. And would love to come see you. Have you come see me at a show sometime in the near future. So just keep an eye out on my website or socials or whatever.
Right on. All right, Thomas, thank you so much for talking. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Hope to connect soon.
All righty.